welcome to John's Guitar Lounge Mobile, right here, live at the 2025 NAMM show in Anaheim, California. And I am so honored, truly honored and blessed to be here today with one of my all-time heroes, Matt Schofield. I'm sure I haven't got to tell any of you guys, but he is one of the just truly best and most prominent blues guitar players that you're ever going to hear. So if you've been living under a rock and if you've never heard him play, check out any of his, many albums. I play a lot of blues and I love a lot of blues and everything, and I think a lot of my viewers and my students do also. So what was it that made you want to play guitar in the first place anyway?
I grew up hearing my dad's vinyl record collection, and it was all blues. So as far back as I can remember, it was, he was playing Muddy Waters or BB or Freddie or Albert King, and even The Compromise as a kid in the car with my mum was probably something like Eric Clapton, So like it was just perfectly normal, that music to me, and so I always enjoyed it. Always knew who those guys were. And look, BB's on my T-shirt.
Look at that, BB on the T-shirt. Big deal.
So he was really the first guy. I had a VHS cassette. We managed to tape like 3 BB King live, 3 tunes from a BB concert in the UK onto, I think it was my dad's first VCR recorder. So we're talking mid '80s,
Oh yeah.
I just would watch this video over and over again and want to be BB King, but I didn't know how to do that because it's so, where do you start, So, but I was always fascinated by it, and eventually I just kind of, really decided I want to do it. So I had a nylon string, 3/4 size nylon string classical guitar that I'd had probably since I was about like 8 or 9 years old.
So you started pretty young then.
Yeah, but I didn't. There was a guy that would come into school once a week and show us like Easy G they called it. So one finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and you just doing like London's Burning. So that was the extent of my tuition, But it was great. We were, you got a group of kids, like you learn the recorder in England as well.
Oh, sure. Okay.
There's these music things. So I had this 3/4 size guitar, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And then come around 12 years old or something, I got that thing out and started trying to get stuff going. I also got bass, cheap,
cool.
really cheap bass, because I thought maybe I could play bass for BB King, because I can't be, how do I be BB King? But maybe I could be his bass player. And he had this great bass player on the video that I had, who was a guy called Russell Jackson, who's still out there touring. And I was like, maybe I could be like him, but the pull to still be BB was too much. So I kept plunking away on that nylon string, and then it would have been the summer of 1990, so I was just turning, from 12 to 13, and my dad lived in the US by this point, so I would spend all my summers in Northern California, and he managed to. So I was listening to BB's records, and then he managed to tape off the TV again a video of BB and Albert Collins sitting in with Stevie Ray.
Oh, beautiful.
Which you can now just go on YouTube and see them do Texas Flood together. It's at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival.
Kids have it so easy these days.
Yeah, right?
We were talking about that a few minutes ago, setting up here too. Like, we used to sit there and just watch like limited things, like limited VHS tapes, like a half an hour here or whatever.
It was gold to even have it, you know what I mean? So
and once the damn tape wore out, you had to find something else.
And I'd make copies, borrow another VCR and stuff. Totally different world.
Yeah.
I'm glad though, because it makes you learn in a certain way. But when I saw the 3 of them jamming together, I was like, I got to do this. So that was August, and then Stevie got killed. He passed like 2 weeks after that.
Oh wow! So right after you,
I just and I heard it. My dad had sent me a cassette copy to England of Eric Clapton's Journeyman record, but on side B of the cassette, he'd put Stevie doing Voodoo Child, and I already had like some Jimi Hendrix on like a '60s compilation cassette that my mum had, and I think maybe it was Purple Haze on that.
Oh, cool!
But this is how I'm getting like just little bits of influence. So Immediately Stevie died, and then I went back to school that new school year in September and started a band with my friends. That was it.
Oh, wow.
So I just went, okay, I'm playing guitar, and I'd been, starting to get going on it. And a friend of mine, Chris, said, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll play bass." Another friend, Fred, says, "I'll play drums." And basically, here we are now. I mean, like those.
Wow.
I started gigging by the following spring. Did our first gig and done them ever since. In fact, the longest gap since then I've had in gigs was 2020 from COVID.
Oh, of course.
So I hadn't not done a gig for a year. Since I was 13. So
wow.
So the whole thing for me was always playing music with other people as well. That was the whole incentive. It wasn't just to play guitar. It was to make music in a band and be in a band and have a band and do gigs. So and so from then, I just obviously went through all the great blues players. Plus, I was being a product of my era, my generation. I was getting the contemporary guys who were, really great. So along with Stevie and his brother Jimmy.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Guys like Robert Cray I was hearing, and Eric Clapton was doing those blues nights at the Royal Albert Hall in 1991. So I was in bed, should have been asleep for school, but I had my headphones in, listening to the BBC live broadcast of the Blues Nights with Buddy Guy, Jimmy Vaughan, Albert Collins. That was the 91, so I'm listening to that, taping them off the radio. So cool. My dad had the vinyl records, but I taped them all onto cassette, and so it's I was like rewind the cassette, trying to figure it out some more. I was a cassette generation, and then from that you had to know someone. You had to know somebody who knew something cool to listen to, because again, no internet, getting guitar magazines. So I think I got a guitar magazine, and there was I can't remember which way around it was. I think I read an interview with Robben Ford, and I thought, okay, this guy sounds interesting. And then I saw a record of his in the record store in the town, which was nearest to. I grew up in a little village after we'd moved out of Manchester, but so I just bought it on a whim. The first Robben Ford and the Blue Line record completely changed I was like, oh man, like it sounds sort of the same as what everything else I'm listening to from the past, or the contemporary guys, but he had a couple more notes to choose from. So I think
he really colors it up in a different way with some of the jazzy stuff.
So that became like, in this interview, they like, how do you, where's the jazzy stuff come from? And he said, well, if you want to play that, you have to listen to jazz, something along those lines. Yeah. And so he recommended Kind of Blue by Miles Davis as a great record to start with. So I started listening to some of that stuff as well, because I wanted to find out more where Robben was coming from. So then, my dad had like one Larry Carlton record. He had a couple of Larry Carlton records, but the one I liked was Last Night. Live record at the Baked Potato, actually.
That's a great album.
So that was probably, I heard that before Robben. That was my first kind of what you might call more sophisticated playing. But a lot of the live B.B. King stuff I had from the 80s is quite sophisticated playing. He's using like some more diminished type stuff. So I was hearing all of that at the same time. So that, and then getting into jazz, and then I discovered Oscar Peterson, the piano player. That became a huge influence or inspiration, I should say. I tried one time to figure out some of his solos on guitar, and I'm like, okay, that's not for me. It's too hard. It's too hard, but
it's a totally different approach.
So and then the music of like New Orleans and stuff, I always loved that, and so discovering bands like the Meters or Dr. John, so you just it's just everything that I like.
You said a bunch of things I want to talk about.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just going.
No.
Once you start me going.
Please, this is about you, not about me. I mean, they hear plenty from me all the time. I know they want to hear from you today. Yeah. How you can do this on a Strat, it's always blown my mind. Every now and then, you'll be doing a run or something, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's that B.B. King note.
Sure.
And it just rings out so clear, like a bell. That's something that I normally associate with a humbucker, like a 335 or even a Les Paul.
Right.
And for you to get that like huge bell-shaped round tone from a Strat has blown my mind. Any tips you can give me for that would be awesome.
Yeah.
If that's something you're willing to divulge.
I don't really know, because I just kind of I just like Strats, and like I say, that Clapton, those Albert Hall things, my coming of age. Everybody was playing Strat, apart from Albert Collins, but Buddy was on a Strat, Robert Cray, Eric, Jimmy Vaughan, they're all on that. It was like I came of age in the era of Strats being like the blues guitar by that point, and not other than BB still on Lucille,
Albert Collins on a Telecaster.
Yeah, and then
with a humbucker though.
And I love a lot of other kinds of guitars, but I just like the Strat. And I just got a Collins actually, the I-35, and I love 335s. I've always had some kind of thing around, but that feels like playing a guitar in front of me, whereas the Strat feels just like me, like an extension of me. Maybe it's the contours, or just I'm so used to it. I've been playing 35 years this year,
Wow.
So I just kind of stuck with it and try to figure out. Honestly, the real answer to that is how you play it. Is how you make it sound. That if you sat in, or if somebody sat in on my rig, and people have, it would sound probably quite a bit different, because you have to finesse it a bit. You can't just beat on it, otherwise it'll sound thin. So how you pick and how you control the guitar is really the secret, especially to getting a Strat to sound fat. You've got to pull the sound out of it in a certain way and finesse it. And
you've got killer vibrato also, I've noticed.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Which I think a lot of like what you're talking about, finessing it and making that come out of it.
Really, is you make the note. You have to make the note, create the sort of chisel it out of rock to get the note to be good. It's there's a lot overlooked in the fact that I think the simplified version is tones in the fingers, right? And you hear that a lot, but it's more than just that. It's the intention you play the note with, how you play it, when you play it. To me, the difference between phrasing and tone is they're not really two different things. How you phrase a note will give it a certain tone as well. How you surround it with,
Maybe you play the exact same notes as a blues scale or something, and chicken pick it, and it's going to sound totally different.
Yeah, or if we had a guitar here now, if I just went bling, 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 that's very different than leaning into a note and making it say something, making it speak. So, watching that video of Stevie when I was a kid, my dad said, look, he doesn't just play the guitar, he is the guitar.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me for 35 years now. The great players there is an extension. So I find it very difficult to separate the idea of somebody's tone from, as an external thing. And of course, we all like nice gear and nice guitars and
amps and pedals and all that stuff, and tweaking stuff and trying different things.
But you can not get much out of those. For example, Two-Rock, my amps of 20 years now, who I'm here at the show with. You can sound really bad through one of those really easily as well. There's nowhere to hide. Very revealing, high headroom, lots of clarity and no separation. You'll hear everything on that.
What I've found over the years is, and I'm sure this is not a profound statement, I'm sure other people have actually found this out, the more headroom an amp has, the more exposed you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And you need that headroom to really get a good live sound in a venue.
For sure.
Otherwise it's just way too compressed.
That's my enemy. I've heard several, my friend Josh Smith, he talks about that, and I saw a thing
with Joe Bonamassa?
Yeah. I saw Joe talk about this, is that you want a certain amount of compression, but too much is just the enemy. And for me, if the amp is limiting my dynamic range in my playing, I feel like I don't have anything to play into,
Sure.
So it almost becomes like a necessary ingredient to have the right amount of headroom so that you can work within a full dynamic range. And again, that's part of the tone. I don't hit every note the same. You know, it's like there's like a little brush and then a hard jab and like to get it kind. Because if you listen to BB, like the dynamics just in one line. How you play one note and then the next one he lets it go and then he tickles the next one. It's all within just one phrase.
Yeah, and Buddy Guy, the same thing too. I mean, just you got the volume on 10, like on the neck pickup, or the middle pickup.
Yeah.
You've got the amp on 10, and he's just barely plucking it.
Yeah.
But that has more feeling sometimes than when he's like digging right in, just because that dynamics. And I talk to my students about this. Dynamics are key in really learning how to express yourself and express your emotions on the guitar. You can also have a lot of fun with it too, and you can almost like sort of joke around with it, like like Buddy Guy, or BB. You can tell from their face. Yeah. Oh, they're making a joke right now with what they're doing.
But those, exactly.
But they're doing it the right way.
And those little details in somebody's playing that even people aren't like immediately conscious of. Yeah. Those little dynamic details is what pull a listener in. That's what makes somebody want to listen to you. Because it's not just a kind of monotonous bashing on the guitar. So for me these days as well, I'm like using the volume control on the guitar for everything. So I'm rarely, I would say maybe 10% of the night I'm wide open on the controls on the guitar. Other than that, I'm like a kind of 6 or 7, and then maybe the start of a solo I'm like 7 or 8, or and just maybe the climax, the peak of a solo, I might be wide open all the way on the bridge pickup. Even that wide open. I used to roll the tone off on the bridge pickup quite a bit, and then I gradually sort
of
start.
Take some of the treble out of it.
Yeah,
so it's not too,
but these days, once you got your setup really balanced and dialed in well, you can kind of also utilize that potential brightness as another dynamic to use that, as long as you don't overdo it. So you can use the full spectrum of warm to really bright and controlling the amount of drive from the volume control. So that's how I play, to the point where I'm like super finicky these days about the volume part in the guitar and the sweep of it and the value. And that's been like the last kind of search. That's the gear stuff that I think about as like the right volume part.
That is so interesting. It's funny. They're building some really decent quality stuff now overseas in different countries, and not calling out like one country or another. But the biggest difference I find is with the volume and the tone pots. What I'm used to and love and rely on is you turn something from 8 to 7 or from 4 to 3 or vice versa, you're going to hear a difference. With those cheap, newer pots, you're at 0, and then all of a sudden you sound like you're at 9. And you roll a knob all the rest of the way from like 2 to 10, and it's such a minuscule difference. And that's like my biggest critique on those instruments now. Since we're talking gear and stuff and we're at the Now Show, I think we should talk a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But it's nothing against all the awesome pedal makers, but a volume pedal does not do that the same way that you can do adjusting the volume pot.
Yeah, for sure. Right. For sure. Totally different. They're very
without a colored tone
for a different type of circumstances, but it isn't the same as what you initially send from the guitar, and how I don't know the technicalities that well, but it's all to do, with the impedance.
You're shopping for volume pots at the show. Are you kidding? You know the technical aspect.
But the impedance with the pickups and the inductance and how they all work together and how they clean up on the guitar, and I don't like treble bleed networks on my volume pot. So the value of the pot and how it interacts with the particular set of pickups in the guitar is like, for me, they've got to match really well, and then everything is complete. So.
That is really, really intricate, and you're talking over my head also. I mean, I've installed pickups and pots and like a mid-boost system and things like that, and some different things, and tried stuff over the years. But now, of course, it's going to change based on the actual set of pickups, But in general, have you found a volume pot that you find works mostly across the board, like best for what you're looking for?
It comes from playing vintage Strats and Gibsons actually, and they had a different sweep on the pot, and almost closer to like linear, what you did rather than so you can buy linear value pots. But so I like the once you play an old Strat though with the original pot and you can clean it up, you can play with it on like 4 or 5 and it doesn't lose loads of treble. It just sounds really even, and the range is smoothed out. It's much more usable than, like you say, where you turn it from 10 to 9 and it drops off really quickly. I want like I want to be able to use the whole range of the control. Yeah. So Mojo make a vintage taper, Mojo Tone.
Mojo Tone.
So I've got those. I've got one of those in my main touring guitar at the moment. That guitar sounded better, than there was kind of an internet wisdom common thing, how these ideas take hold, that you want like to get the pot to be a higher value than the 250 or something. So you want to look for try and get a 270 or,
Right.
But my main guitar at the moment is a refinished 63 Strat, and the original volume pot died, so I had to find a new one. It didn't sound better with a high value pot. It started to sound thin, a little strident. So I found a Mojo one that was like a little bit below spec, and it made the guitar come together. It's like, now it sounds right again.
Interesting.
So we're talking, this is my gear world. I love I love the guitars I have. I love the amps I have. I love the pedals I have. I'm not shopping for new stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to get the down to the smallest details of the stuff that I actually use. So I like that. I like my 61 Strat right now has that original pot, also died, has a RS Guitar Works Super Pot in there, and that works great too. But that one is slightly above spec because the 61 Strat is a bit of a darker sounding guitar compared to the 63, which is brighter already. So it's almost like tuning them for the maximum, to make the most of them with the right pot. So that's, I know it might sound crazy to some people, but if you play a really loud, if you play a really loud, cleanish amp through not many pedals, then you're really hearing all of this stuff. The devil's in the details, as they say.
It absolutely is. You are so right about that. Yeah. So I've got to ask you too. It didn't surprise me. It refreshed me when, right at the beginning of our talk, you told me that you grew up just like watching live stuff. I did that too on the VHS tapes and stuff. And you've done something that so few people have ever done, which you put out a live album as your very first album. Which always blew me away. And you've done a bunch of live albums. You've done studio albums as well. What made you, choose,
Oh, there was no plan.
For the no.
God,
you
there's
just
never
sort of
been
fell
a plan.
into it, or what? No.
Yeah, we recorded a gig because we wanted to get some more gigs, And this is 20 years ago. Actually, it was 22 years ago we recorded, 2003. So we were young, man. So it was the night before my 26th birthday, I think, and that we recorded the gig, and it came out in 2004. So we just recorded a gig, on because back then you need video to send to everybody for gigs, but back then you needed
Thanks, YouTube.
Basically a demo tape. It was still, there was no YouTube. So we recorded a gig at a venue north of London, because we'd been playing a little place in London, and we wanted to do more, So we needed, with this particular band, with my organ trio, so it was that, and then the guy who promoted the gig said, you know what, you should just put this out as a record, and he set up a label to release it.
Interesting.
And he saw, and then for the following 10 years or so, he, that was the label that put out my records, and he managed me. So it was more like just the way it fell together. So in fact, after that, it was all covers. We didn't have any songs. We were all still playing in other people's bands. So but we liked this lineup of this organ trio thing that we had, and it was different than anything anybody else was doing.
And killer organist too.
Yeah, Johnny.
Organist,
I went to school with him. You see.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh wow.
And we still tour now. Me, Johnny, and Evan. In fact, we just. Have a new record with the three of us coming out.
Do you really?
So so it's done.
Wow, and your last one was like in 2014.
Yeah,
I wanna say,
yeah.
something, right?
I haven't really. It's a long story, but I haven't really felt like putting stuff out with the climate of the music industry. You know.
I can understand.
But we
that.
have. So I have a trio. It's actually volume 1 of the same trio as the very first couple of records.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because we've toured this whole time. I go back to Europe. They've never been to the US. Johnny used to come play organ with me in the US, but visas and the costs associated with that, unless somebody can be there all the time, and these guys have their own lives and other
and families and stuff. Yeah, so.
So, but we always tour back in Europe. We'll do a tour in March. We've been talking to some labels and stuff about the record, but it's a mess, the music industry. So I'm just gonna maybe in a couple of weeks it's just gonna be on my website, and you'll be able to get it like that.
Well, but you heard it here first, guys.
True, yeah.
You heard it here first. Matt is putting out a new album.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to his website and all of his socials and stuff. I'll put links for all that stuff in the description of this video.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, of course. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's awesome. The three of us. So me and Johnny have been playing. We did our first gig together in 1996.
Wow. Okay.
So he was 15 years old or something,
Many moons ago. Wow, yeah. That's just amazing. Yeah. What a killer organ player.
Yeah, he plays with Robben now as well.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, he's been touring because Robben lives in London.
Yeah.
So
wow.
And actually, Evan. In fact, for a while, Robben just borrowed my band, so, which is fine.
Cool.
So yeah, Johnny's been.
As long as he gives it back. But.
Yeah. We've had one conflict so far where Johnny was already booked with Robben, and so he couldn't do my gig. But
anyway. That's too funny. You're in pretty darn good company though, like when you're sharing musicians with Robben. So I'm very, very fortunate to be in such good company with you, Matt.
Thank you.
So I want to let you go back about your NAMM experience and everything, and so I don't want to hold you up for too long here, but thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Cheers, so cool.
Sorry, I got the cable.
Hey, that's okay. We're at the right place if I need to buy more equipment. So.
Yeah, man, pull the whole rig over there.
Yeah, exactly right. Well,
thank you, man.
Like, subscribe. All of Matt's stuff, subscribe my stuff, please. Check out more than 70 free guitar lessons right on my channel. If you want to learn how to play guitar for real, just listen to some of Matt's stuff and albums and videos and all that stuff, and you'll be doing just fine. But thank you again for being here, Matt.
Pleasure, mate.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Bye,
you
everybody.
Cheers.